What's going on, everybody? David Gravel here. This is the Gravel Show. Thanks for tuning in. As you guys could see, we have a new sponsor of the channel, and that's AZ Roofing from Bristol, Connecticut. All your roofing needs, give them a call. Check out their Instagram and Facebook. Tim Spears owns the company, sponsors several people in racing locally in Connecticut. Huge race fan. Hung out with him at the PRI show. Great guy for our sport, and even though he doesn't directly help sprint car racing, he's helping these two girls, the Paps sisters from Connecticut, get into micro racing and getting the sprint car racing 305s for the upcoming season. So thank you to them, and thank you to our other main sponsor of the show, Marlowe's Metal Fabricating in Dover, Pennsylvania. They do sheet metal fab, aluminum spot welding, laser cutting, CNC machining, CNC lathe, and tube bending. So check them out. Donnie's a great guy. He supported the show since year one, so can't thank those people enough. We got back from the PRI show, didn't feel too bad. Had one big night, went to Club Envy, and had a good time with Rico and Carter and a bunch of people. It was good catching up to them, and spent the whole day at the Butler booth, getting people fitted for seats and letting them know what we all had to offer there. And got to see our people at Simpson and Stilo. Luckily, they had us on a mannequin and other displays there. Ate some real good food. Was able to eat steak, seafood. A little cold for my liking, but great time at the PRI show, guys. We have a lot of exciting things that we're working on other than, just the racetrack stuff, and to go see everybody that supports our Big Game Motorsports team and thank them for everything they do. And really excited for 2025 coming up, which is crazy to say 2025, but it is. It seems like it's the future, but we are now here, and I'm 32 years old. Let me know if any of you guys went to the PRI show, if you walked past me or not. Really excited for the show, having Chris Windom and Tyler Courtney on. They are good friends. I've known them for a long time. We're going to talk about, the Usac days, the biggest differences. Where is Usac missing out in comparison to wing sprint car racing? As you see the trend of non-wing guys moving over to wing sprint car racing. Chris Windom has run the Indy Lights race at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Want to maybe talk about that experience. Guys are both champions in multiple divisions in USAC, so they've accomplished a lot on the USAC side. And Sunshine's won some big races in the wing racing, and was pretty close to Brad for a lot of the year this year until he went to the West Coast. And we want to talk about that, what happened and what went wrong on the West Coast. And then Chris Windom just announced he's going to be on the World of Outlaw tour, and really excited for that. So he's going to be with the 7S Jason Sides Motorsports, and he'll be a rookie battling Cole Macedo for the Rookie of the Year honors. So that should be exciting and good. And we're going to get these guys on the show. It was kind of last minute to get them on, and I'm glad they pulled through for me to get us on the show. And I believe our next show will be Monday next week. Christmas is a tough week. I'll be in Connecticut, but we have a studio that I will be able to use there. So we're going to name our guest hopefully very soon, lock them down, and get a show on Monday before Christmas starts. So, let's get it rolling here and bring in Sunshine and Chris Windom. What's going on, guys?
Hey, man, how are you?
I'm doing good. Are you in Iowa?
Yep, Iowa moved. We got all moved in about the first week of December, really. We I think we closed in November or something like that. Then obviously had some races here and there to go to, and then finally got some time to get moved and settled in.
Nice, Chris. And where are you? Are you home? Or are you somewhere else? You in Missouri?
No, I'm in Indiana, actually, over at one of our friends and sponsors' house right now. We had dinner tonight, so set
Nice.
up in the Sun Dollar office and talking to you guys.
Oh, very cool. Thanks for making it happen, man. I appreciate it. Congrats on the new ride, the 7S machine. Hopped on the World of Outlaw tour. Was that kind of your goal this year to be on the World of Outlaw tour, or you're really open-minded going into the off season?
Ultimately, I would say it would be a goal. I don't know if it was with how it all happened, but it kind of happened fast and making the move over to side. So I'm obviously really excited about it. having a baby coming in February. So between my first year on the Outlaw schedule and that, it's going to be pretty busy.
Yeah, that's for sure. I mean, you did a lot of racing this past year, just as much as about anybody. So you got to, see what that's like. But obviously, fatherhood is a crazy change in life, and it's awesome. But don't expect to sleep throughout the night. Just take these nights in now that you could actually sleep and sleep up throughout the night, because it's every day you're up at 6 or 3 or 4, and then when they're breastfeeding or drinking formula, it's pretty wild, but it's pretty special, man. You're gonna love it, and you and George have been together a long time, so I know the kid's gonna be good looking. That's for sure.
Yeah, hopefully he looks a little more like her, but we're super excited about it.
For sure. And Sunshine. So off season, you're doing Tulsa Shootout.
Yep, Tulsa Shootout, Chili Bowl. Yeah, then that's really about it. We're gonna host Christmas here at the house and do that for the first time. But yeah, other than that, no Australia or New Zealand or anything. Just go and try and win a driller.
Yeah, cool. And then who are you running for in at Shootout, and who are you running for Chili Bowl? Just so if people don't know.
So the shootout I'm going to race for Jake Agopian, who's actually the owner of D1 or Driven, and
Yep.
then at the Chili Bowl I'm going to run for Kyle and Paul Silva. So just the same car that ran out west, and we struggled a little bit, but I think that was more of me. Then we were pretty good at Ventura, which I feel like is probably the most similar I was going to get to Chili Bowl. I ran last year and just kind of felt like I was just missing a little bit, being comfortable going into the Chili Bowl. So this year I just kind of made it a point to go run at least a few races out west, and didn't didn't run as good as we'd hope, but I think accomplished the goal of getting comfortable by that last night there at Ventura to hopefully show up to the Expo Center and be competitive.
Yeah, I feel like that West Coast swing. I don't know if you could compare much to the Chili Bowl. The weather,
No,
Mother Nature was a handful. How wet those tracks were. Merced being that rough, man. Not running a midget for a while and have to
yeah.
run Merced that night. That had
It
to be
was
not
not
fun.
ideal situations, that's for sure. And even when I race midgets full time, like those type of conditions weren't like my forte or something that I look forward to racing on. And but the difference was back then, it's kind of something I had to do. And the night at Bakersfield, I wasn't super comfortable in hot laps. I was biking all over the place, and I came in and just told Paul that I wasn't comfortable and I didn't feel the need to go out there and race uncomfortably and take a chance of either hurting myself or the race car. So sat that one out and just kind of focused on turkey night from that point on. And yeah, it was just a tough trip, but yeah, it just you give the respect back to those guys that do it all the time, and are good in those types of situations, and just shows you how hard racing really is across the board, not even just in the wing sprint cars that we run all the time, but everything's competitive across the board now.
Yeah, I mean, Dason Percy did a good job. You figured I don't follow Usac's, midget stuff all the time. I figured out CB was going to win the title, and the year that Dason had, obviously he was stout throughout the whole season, and guys like Justin Grant, you figured he'd be up there, and he was sixth, seventh, or eighth in points or whatever it was, way out of the title shot. So he's giving it his all every single night, max effort, and it's a great team. So it definitely shows how competitive it is, but. Obviously, Macedo getting a win night one at Tulare was good for our wing sprint car guys. But, other than that, it was tough sledding. And, Corey Day obviously getting turkey night, and he's real talented. And Willie Kane's supplying a good car. But, Chris, are you running no shootout? Probably, right? You're running Chili Bowl is still with Chad Bowe?
No shootout, but yeah, I'll be at Chili Bowl with Chad. I think we're planning on doing Thursday night for my prelim night. So excited to do that. I only got to run a midget once this year at Eldora during Four Crowns, so haven't had a lot of practice this year. And I was actually supposed to go do Placerville, and that was going to be my only weekend, and that whole weekend got canceled. So didn't get a chance to go out and run on the West Coast, but I know Chad will have everything ready to rip for Chili Bowl.
I mean, I feel like you've been at Boat for a while now at Chili Bowl. How many years in a row is that now?
Shoot, I think since 2020 was my first year with him. And
Okay.
yeah, so we won the midget championship in 2020 against Tyler. So
Yep, one whole
um,
point.
1 point.
So, have you guys both won all 3 divisions, or
No, I won the midget and sprint car. Chris won all 3, but
okay.
I never ran a full USAC Silver Crown schedule. I just used to run the dirt stuff. That was it.
Yep. Okay, that's what I thought. I thought Chris won all 3, and then I knew Sunshine you won at least 1 or 2. So, very cool stuff. So, you guys both coming from the USAC ranks, and coming over to wing sprint car racing, and you've done it now for a few years. Sunshine a couple more than Windom, but now that you haven't been at USAC now, like, what do you think they're missing to be able to grow and get to that next level? Like, obviously the pay, right, is one thing, but is it even sustainable for USAC? Like, are the crowds good enough everywhere you guys went? Like, how are the crowds now from what you're hearing? Like, is it something that is truly sustainable, or would you say it's just maybe a tier down in the mid 2000s when I started racing wing sprint cars? USAC was booming when you had TSR and KKR and the RWB stuff. And, Keith Coons had all divisions, not just midgets. So, like, where do you guys feel USAC is and what it's lacking?
I mean, I don't know if there's a one right or wrong answer to that. I think you hinted on a few things. Obviously, money is one, but I do think that they're doing a better job and a good job. I mean, stuff has gone up every year from what I've saw, at least for them on purses and point payouts. So they're trying and doing, I feel like what they need to do there. But I think another thing, like you said, is predominantly they're an Indiana-based series, and I think that's where their core fan base is at, and the loyal USAC fans are all still there. But again, I don't know for whatever reason, I don't know if they just don't get that big fan base outside of that wing sprint car racing draws in, and I don't know what the answer is, why or why not. But there's multiple things, maybe like you said, you had, and when we first started, it was TSR, KKR. Keith had midget sprint cars, silver crowns. There was pavement and dirt full time. And again, I don't really know where the transition started to why that went away. But you used to have the big rigs pulling in, and all the big names and big teams, and that's where everybody wanted to be. And now it's kind of there's 3-4 owners that hire drivers to come race USAC. And again, I don't know what the answer is, but that's kind of, the way I see it currently.
Yeah, I think it's tough. I think mainly the midgets have become like that next step from a micro. So like these kids, go from a micro to a midget, and I feel like now with how popular wing sprint cars gotten, like if they're going from a midget to, maybe try to get to the next step, of NASCAR or something like that, and it doesn't quite get there, they just naturally go to a wing car now instead of, transferring over into the non-wing side. And I think that's just the nature of where the sport's gone with, how big wing sprint car racing has gotten. Um, and obviously like they've still got a few of their big names that run the sprint cars, but the big names that they kind of build up in the midget series, those kids like Dason jump ship and go race a wing car. And so I feel like it's been tough for them to build you know I guess like put their series onto a driver and really sell the series with those drivers, like the Outlaws have a core group of guys that they get to sell to these people year in and year out. And High Limit's doing the same thing now, where we're building a core group of guys to be able to sell as a product. With USAC, I feel like it changes from year to year, with a couple guys staying the same every year. And I think it's just been tough. And like Chris said, yeah, the fan base is predominantly in Indiana, and they get great crowds when they go to Pennsylvania. But like going to California, really it depends on really the year and the weather out there. I feel like Turkey Night's always a really great crowd, but everywhere else is kind of hit or miss. And obviously the BC39 does really well being at the Speedway, and be interesting to see how the Sprint Week show does at the Speedway this year, with that being the first time you're having an actual sprint car race there. And yeah, I don't know. Like Chris said too, I don't know if there's a real answer for them to to take that step back forward. I think that they're doing all the right things with adding purse money and championship money, and they've done that every year since I've been gone, and it's been cool to see. And I love USAC racing. I love watching it, and watching the young talent growing to guys that you're going to be racing against sooner or later.
Yeah, for sure. I really like what the Silver Crown thing's coming back. It started, I would say, 4 or 5 years ago, and now I feel like it has a lot of momentum. And to race at, what is it, St. Louis there at that track, it must be pretty cool and wild. Gateway, right? That's what it's called.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then, I know it's not USAC sanctioned, but the pavement midget stuff at IRP, like I feel like there's so much midget pavement equipment that's been sitting around for so long. It was needed to get some races back there. And now they have the focus midgets, where you guys knew that was a kind of a big thing when we were starting out. Like that was a very good entry level form of open wheel racing to get into. That was somewhat, inexpensive, and now it's very inexpensive with you getting a roller for cheap because nobody wanted them, and then you throw a focus motor in there. So I'm glad to see IRP getting more races, because I've always questioned like how that place made any money. I know the drag strip obviously is a predominant thing, but I felt like IRP didn't get used very much. So I like seeing the midget stuff going, and the Silver Crown stuff going, but it's a bummer for USAC that you lose Emerson and you lose Dason, kind of two of the young guys that I thought were players. And then Ryan Timms, I don't know what he's going to do. Obviously, he's going to do a healthy wing sprint car schedule and still maybe race USAC a little bit. But those three guys, say if they committed to USAC, they could be the modern Brady Bacon, Justin Grant, people like that. So yeah, it just seems like they gain a little momentum and then they lose. And now you guys got like Briggs Danner, Jacob Denny. I feel like these kids are young and talented, and I'm really curious to see what a Briggs could do next year.
Yeah, I agree. I think Briggs is a super talented race car driver, and he dabbles in a little bit of everything, honestly. But yeah, it's cool to see him, kind of commit to doing the full USAC deal, and I think it's a great ad for USAC on the sprint car side to get a kid like that can probably jump right in and be a contender right out of the box.
Do you feel like the Toyota Keith Kunz dominance at one point kind of actually hurt USAC racing? Like, did you feel like it shoved people away, like that they didn't have a chance? Like, you guys competed really hard against, Rico and Larson and Thorson, right? And then Bell. But, they won a lot of races, and then, you kind of left, USAC racing. But do you think that there's actually a negative effect of having that huge superpowered team, where back in the day there was like maybe 3 or 4, big teams?
I think that there for a while that could have been the case, because right when Keith started dominating with Christopher and Kyle, and then Rico obviously came in, and then even Tanner Thorson when he was with Keith. I was running. That was when I first started racing midgets full time, and I was running for Fike, and then I ran for Wilkie, and a good night was finishing fourth to those three, and it was almost just impossible to win if you weren't in one of those cars. So, I mean, that's not necessarily why I quit for a while, but I could see that being a turnoff to guys wanting to come in full time midget racing at that point in time. Not necessarily the last 7 or 8 years, but
Yep.
10 years ago, I feel like you couldn't win a midget race if you weren't in a Keith car.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think it probably hurt it there for a little bit, but then at the same time, I think it made everybody step up their programs, and then I think you started to see multiple super teams or what have you to go up against Keith, and I think yeah, for a little bit it may have hurt, but yeah, but I think he raised the bar for midget racing and made it that much better. And I feel like, and now he's a destination for kids that want to come from the micros and try and do what Christopher or Kyle did and things like that. And then it's been able to produce more teams outside of that want to come in and be a Keith Kunz. You know what I mean? And so yeah, I think yeah, for a little bit maybe hurt, but I think now it's been a great thing for the sport to be able to see more teams come in and you know either try and beat Keith or try and beat him too at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, it's an accomplishment. You beat that team with, what they got going on. And Toyota, huge, benefit to all of dirt racing right now. They're, supported pretty huge in our racing. And then I made SR11 and Stanton really step up their program, right? Because I felt like if you didn't have a Toyota, it was a big disadvantage. And I feel like when the SR11X came out, I feel like that really equaled the playing field, because I know the SR11s were pretty heavy and didn't make the low end torque as the Toyotas did. And I feel like now, if you have an SR11X or if you have a Toyota, I feel like you're confident going to any racetrack.
Yeah, I would agree. I think yeah, Eric and Gary at Stanton, they worked a lot of years, struggling to get everything right. But I think once they came out with the X, and we really got things to last and compete well, we took a huge step forward, and it made Toyota go to the drawing board too to make their stuff better. And yeah, I feel like now they're pretty equal. Like I think you buy one or the other, and you're going to be pretty spot on right out of the box.
So, who's a young kid that maybe we don't know about that you think's really good and up and coming? Like we know Emerson and Dayson, and we said Briggs Danner, but any young guys that we don't know about? I don't pay attention enough to USAC that I might not even know.
Maybe like a Kale Drake.
Okay,
He's
yep.
been
Yeah,
good this year.
I'd say
Jumping.
Kale, and he even got in the sprint car this year and was really fast with Binnick. And yeah, I don't think he finished all the races he wanted to, but when he was running in the top 10, top 5 some nights. I think that's a kid that's worked really hard. He won the give back race or ran second or something in the Keith's give back race, and got the opportunity to run Chili Bowl for him, and then took advantage of it this whole year. With Keith letting him work on everything in exchange for a ride, at least from the story that I know, and has put it to good use. Yeah, I think he'll be a kid that you'll hear his name quite a bit in the next couple years. Making a name for himself. Yeah, I think that Jacob Denny kid, I think super talented. He's just been doing midget stuff, so I would imagine he'll probably try and get in sprint cars this year. Especially running a full time midget schedule. I know it makes it tough for him to be able to go out and do more than he probably wants to. But I think those are two kids I think on the USAC side that are very talented, that can make a name for themselves in the sport if they want to work hard enough to do it.
Who beat Bell there this past weekend?
Carter Sarf, he's another kid. And he ran for Briscoe in the wing car this year, and I think he won a race. I don't know if Chase is going to keep doing his sprint car deal or not with his whole new contract and stuff at Gibbs. I would imagine with Joe letting everybody run dirt that it won't be an issue to keep his sprint car deal going. And I would imagine he would keep Carter in it. But yeah, I think he came around with us a few times and made the shows and things like that. And jumping into, a high limit or outlaw show, your first few times in a sprint car is pretty hard.
I feel like he won a couple or a lot of the races at Peevely this year. I thought in the midget when he
Yeah,
ran your double
he's
digit.
a gasser. He's been a midgets, I feel like, forever now. I think he's only, probably 20 or 21 or maybe even younger than that, but I feel like he's been racing midgets for 10 years now.
Yeah, that's cool. Is he like an Oklahoma boy or something like that?
Illinois, I think.
Illinois.
Yeah.
Man, it's crazy. I feel like the path to move up the ranks now are so different. It seems like, quarter midget racing isn't really much of a factor in dirt racing. And then it seemed like it was outlaw carts that were the thing. And now it's like so obvious it's winged micro racing and non-wing. Obviously, they're all these divisions. I don't even know the difference between all the divisions, but coming from PA and racing, we just had a stock engine with a wing on it, and they just started implementing non-wing, back in 2008. But and I don't know if it's Millbridge that caused that, and then obviously the West Coast, like the shootout was always a thing, but now I feel like it has the nation's attention. And Pennsylvania people never went to the shootout when I raced. It was, kind of more that region. Probably your people in Indiana went,
Yeah.
and then the California people probably went. But now there's plenty of hypers there where there was
Yeah.
never any
There's
hypers there.
yeah, they go by the fleets now from Pennsylvania. It's crazy, and they do very well. Yeah, the hypers have kind of shown up the last couple of years, and been the cars to beat, and especially the non-wing stuff. But yeah, it's been crazy. I feel like when I first started going to the shootout, like you said, there was a handful of Pennsylvania guys, but nothing major. And then I feel like the last 5-6 years they just started showing up um, by the truckloads.
It's interesting, right? Bo Coon's doing all these farm systems, right, to groom these guys to run midgets and then kind of see where they go from there. And Chevy has a deal with Josh Wise in Charlotte, and they do a lot of testing with their guys at Millbridge. And I think Millbridge is such a popular thing right now. You had the Quapple brothers, and now Carson is getting chances in NASCAR, and it's really interesting to see. And I'm glad, I think the Kyle Larson effect has showed people that dirt guys are very talented, and these pavement guys are honing their skills in dirt.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I micro raced when I was or 12 to 13, I guess, but it wasn't near as big as what it is now. We had a concept chassis in Indiana, and that was basically you were either in a Sawyer or a concept. And I mean, it was still big around Indiana at that point in time, but like you were talking about, there wasn't the huge following coming to all these big races from all the California and Pennsylvania. And then you mentioned earlier about just the progression. It was like you got out of micros, and I got in a Kenyan midget. That was what you needed to do if you were around Indiana. And that was where the Focus midgets were and the Kenyan midgets were. And now I feel like it's just micros straight into a full midget or a sprint car.
Yeah, like, I mean, 13, 14 years old kids are getting in sprint cars, or they're trying to get all these, waivers and stuff. And I guess there's always young kids, when we race, but it definitely seems like kids at 17, 18 years old have like 4 years of experience driving a wing sprint car already.
It's crazy.
Yeah,
Like,
it's pretty nuts.
like to me, like I remember Buddy racing in California, and he was 13 or 12 or whatever, only could race certain races. And I felt like he was okay, but it took him a while to really hone his craft. And now obviously he's a good racer, and he's only 20 whatever years old, but he's got as many laps as a 30-year-old. He's honestly like a veteran of dirt racing already at a young age.
Yeah, and it seems to be becoming way more common. Like even Corey Day, like this is his first full year on a national tour, but he raced a lot of sprint cars from you know 15 to 17 before he went full time on the road this year. But they did it the right way. They ran a lot in California, and then went out when they felt like he was ready, and then obviously this year um, showed he was capable of on the national tour.
So high limit racing, you guys both did it this year. Chris, I believe you ran the All Stars the previous year, and so did Sunshine. So the both of you guys, what was the biggest difference from the All Star schedule or running? You would say somewhat regional series to coast to coast national series.
Well, I think for us, or for me especially, only been my third year. I hadn't really done a ton of traveling racing wing cars, and a lot of the tracks were new. And obviously, I don't think it's any secret the competition was exponentially higher than what it was against the All Stars or anything that I had consistently done. So, for our whole team, it was really a new adventure traveling a national circuit. Obviously, the All Stars were a national circuit, but like you said, they were mainly in Ohio, Pennsylvania, and around the Midwest. So for my guys and myself, it was kind of a big learning curve going out and going to the West Coast. And, even going to Volusia at the start of the year was something I'd never done. And outside of Eldora and the Pennsylvania, half miles, just a lot of new tracks and a lot stiffer competition to go up against with our first year. Also, on top of that, us being together all of our first year.
Yeah, and for us, like obviously we done quite a bit of traveling outside the All Star stuff to, prepare ourselves for a national tour, and then obviously just kind of went when the high limit bought All Stars, just kind of you know went that way, and yeah, traveling was a lot more this year, and it gets difficult. Yeah, I think we took to it very well. Obviously the West Coast stuff, which it was just kind of a turning point in our season. Like we started out good, we ran sixth at Tulare the first night, and then we won Hanford the next night. And it seemed like after that we couldn't do anything right, and we couldn't like you just like we lost our speed, and then just everything happened. One thing after another. We couldn't do anything to get out of our own way, and just hurt us, put us behind the eight ball. Going back to finish out the season on the Midwest and the East Coast, and but other than that, I feel like obviously the competition was a lot tougher, but we knew that going in, and just kind of had the mindset of upping ourselves, competition wise, and mentally just getting ourselves ready for that challenge. And all in all, I feel like except for about a month in the schedule, we did a really great job this season. It's just but that's a tough part of this whole thing. You got to be good every night, especially when you're racing a guy like Brad. David. He doesn't ever really do anything wrong. It feels like when he does do something wrong, it's really not even that bad compared to your bad night.
Yeah, that's what it seems like it always is. He'll get into a crash, or I know he's had a flat tire this year and still run eighth or 10th or something like
Yeah.
that. And the thing just doesn't blow, or
No,
or
he just chips away at you, and but it's just part of the learning process, and I know it's going to make us better. Already has made us better as a team, and myself as a driver. To get yourself to that standard of who they are, and what you and your team are now. And yeah, I think that's the fun part about doing this national touring stuff now, is that you just get to keep making yourself better to compete night in and night out.
so what was it going into California? Was it like a 40, 50 point
Yeah,
difference in
something
the lead?
like it was less than 80. I know that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then by the time we got to Port Royal, I think it was like over 100 or so, and then we even struggled at Port Royal, which is one of our best tracks. And
Yeah.
yeah, just a tough part of the season there. And it sucks it was that part of the season, because you're pretty much out of time to gain anything back. And he kind of goes into cruise mode after he's kind of got you with his foot on your neck. And it's just tough, but just make us better and hungrier for next year.
Yeah, so I feel like that's what separates, right? Is if you have one bad night, you nip it at the butt. The next night you go out and like you answer back. And I believe it was Skagit for you. You maybe got into a couple wrecks.
Yeah,
And
we
just
got in a
seemed like
crash. I think every time I was on the racetrack, I think I got in a crash there, and just couldn't ever recover from it. But yeah, and I feel like most of the season until we went out west, we could have a bad night and bounce right back, and then out there it was just one thing after another, and yeah, it just sucked.
so Chris, I think maybe had a little bit different West Coast swing. I feel like the highlight of your season was it Gold Cup? Didn't you have a really strong night at Gold Cup at Chico?
Yeah, yeah, we ran third at Gold Cup.
How weird was that surface for you? Have you ever raced there ever in your life?
No, and I don't know what it's normally like, but it seemed awful rough and heavy the whole
To
weekend
me,
when we
it's a
were.
hard place to read. It looks like, oh, they're tilling it up, they pack it in. Man, it's gonna be dry. It's gonna like, blow off. And then like it's slimy typically when we were there. And then it would go build a huge cushion of like slime, and it'd kind of be in that lane up high near the cushion. And then it seemed like this, it could slick off and take rubber. Like it was, to me, it's one of the hardest dirts to read and know what you need to be better there.
Yeah, I would agree. I think like we felt pretty good for the first half of the night on our prelim night at Gold Cup, and then we were just off on the feature on our prelim night, and then just never really got a hold of it the rest of the weekend. Like it's just a weird surface, but yeah, it seems like the guys that are fast there are always fast, and yeah, it seems like when a lot of the national guys come in there, it's quite a bit of a struggle.
Yeah, it's unique, man. It's a tough place. I think it's one of the hardest places to perform at, especially perform, night in night out there. You can maybe sneak in one good night, but man,
Right.
it's a tough place, and I've struggled there. Luckily, I was able to win one race there with the 2 car, but other than that, it's been one of my places that hasn't been kind to me. Did you guys have fun at the bikini contest and the glow party?
Yeah, the rest of the event, they've done a great job. Brad and Kyle and Colby, and Caitlin and Candace. It's been it was that, like, I'd heard about it the last few years since they've you kind of revamped it, and get to go experience all that was awesome. It's one of those events that you look forward to going to next year. And racing aside, obviously was a struggle for us this year, but the rest of it was an awesome experience to be a part of.
So High Limit took an interesting approach on their schedule, I felt, with that big break in between races. Obviously, you could have chosen to race some outlaw races, but did you guys like that? Obviously, having the choice to, but that big break, was it awkward? Was it like the season started but it didn't? Like, how did you guys like those big breaks?
I enjoyed them. I enjoyed the breaks. I think it gives you a chance to take a week or 2 weeks off if you wanted to, or if not, the Outlaws are racing every weekend, so you can go race there. There's a weekend that we got to go run Knoxville, or next year we're looking at a weekend that we can go run in Pennsylvania just to get ready for those races. And just kind of gives you a lot of different options. And there's, I think, the one in the middle of summer is kind of nice because you can just take a weekend off and regroup, and just kind of take a much needed break sometimes is very, very good for your team.
I guess question to you: do you like not having an off weekend, David?
Well, you're gonna find out, Chris, this
That's
year.
why I'm
All right.
asking.
For me, I love the start of the season. Obviously, I live in Florida, so I get to go to Volusia for 4 nights and then drive back home and be off for a couple weeks and then go back for bike week. So that part of the year is good. I think the biggest struggle, and has been for the history of dirt racing, is where do you race in March, after the bike week weekend. And you're just really flipping a coin on the weather. And, to me, it's high risk of how many races you're going to get in. And really, this year we had a decent amount of rainouts early, and we could have had more the Cotton Bowl weekend, and that's probably why a lot of high limit guys didn't come, because you look at the forecast and it was like literally 80-90% chance of rain, and we were able to get the shows in that weekend. So once the season gets going, I don't care, like May, June, July, August. I want to race. You're focused, right? It's hot. You're going after the big races and you're into it. I think it's everything on the edges. It's the March, it's the October, it's the November, right? That I feel like take forever. You're just racing on the weekends or one time on a weekend, and high chance of a rain out. And if you do get a rain out, it just, to me, like, the momentum gets broken, and it's just like a awkward time. And if you're in a close points battle, it's like the weeks go by really slow. And that's my biggest thing, is I like the condensed schedule. I don't mind the 80 or 90 races, but I feel like, we had that 1 week off before Charlotte. I feel like let's just get it done.
All right.
Yeah, I could see that. I could see. I definitely. I like being busy in the summer, like when you're doing 4 to sometimes 5 races a week, and you're knocking races out. Especially if you're fast, like, and you got momentum on your side, you want to race as much as you can, as often as you can. And then, but there's those times that like we get you would get a week off or so. That's you know you don't really know you wanted a break until it comes to that point. You're like, all right, man, that was pretty nice. It was nice to get that, and then you're even hungrier to get back racing, and it just makes it good.
Anything to add, Chris?
Well, I was just thinking, the one thing I feel like I may enjoy about the outlaw schedule is you have the choice. Obviously, it doesn't make a ton of sense, but the one thing that sometimes I didn't enjoy with high limit is we'd be somewhere for 3 nights, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then completely somewhere else Tuesday or Wednesday just for a one-night show. And then you had 4 days off till Friday, but you still were kind of forced to stay wherever you were at and just for that one midweek show. With the Outlaws, it seems like it's kind of it's 2 or 3 nights a week, but it's normally Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then you're off till the next Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So you can kind of plan out your week if you want to get back home, and that's stuff I'm having to think about now, having a new baby on the way. So just being able to kind of plan out, your trips home and when you can and can't go back.
Yeah, do you plan on having a t-shirt trailer out, or how are you going to play that by ear on who's going to work it, trying to
Still
figure that
planning
out
on that
still?
currently.
Yep, yep. I
Yeah.
feel you. It's always a struggle for me to figure that out, but yeah, I feel like there'll be a lot less trailers at outlaw races than high limit. I feel like, man, every aerial shot at a high limit race, I felt like there was a lot of t-shirt trailers. So
Yeah, dude, I think we had about 15 to 16 almost every night, which is just
Yes.
insane because these tracks are like this is not made for 15 or 16 merchandise trailers to come there. So doing the
yep.
planning on all that was, or luckily we've got a good group of people at High Limit to help organize all that and get us in there early and make sure it's gonna work and things like that. But yeah, it's definitely it was hectic. Some places that have those tight areas where you're trying to stuff 15 trailers in.
Yeah, no doubt. Somebody said Gravel looks like he just came off a something day binge here. Well, when you're a dad and uh and the wife's working every day, shaving and a haircut. I'm getting a haircut Saturday. So come Saturday, I look like a brand new man. So for the show Monday, I'll look young again. But PRI, long days, a lot of walking, late nights. There was one
And
3:30
it's the
a.m.
off
night.
season.
Yeah, it's the off season. So
Did you
no
go?
shave
You said you
November
went to
turns
Yeah.
into December, and it's rolling over. When you're a dad, like you just learn like some shit's just not as important as it used to be.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
I still keep it lined up though, as good as I can. I keep it lined up, but it might get a little haggard looking.
Yeah.
So, race fan 17V said, "What's our boy Zach up to, and how was it seeing him win this year?" I'm sure you guys watched Dirt Vision that night or after when my crew guy Zach won the
Yeah.
305 race at Huset's, and
Yeah, he was pumped.
a car that's never ran in the top 10 in a 305 race ever at Huset's. What a cool night. I felt like Steven helped out a lot. Cody helped out a lot with the setup. And, I was there for driving coach. Every caution I was signaling him, tell him where to run. And he did a great job driving. So he's wanted to be a driver. He races outlaw karts in the off season in Oklahoma. They have some indoor stuff. And I'm not sure if he'll be racing Chili Bowl or not, but
I thought
yeah,
I saw that he was. I know
I
he's done it
think
before.
yeah, he's done it before, so he's excited. But he's gonna have a Big Game Motorsports prepped 305 this year for Huset's. So the
Damn.
car, I forgot which car it is, but once he got home from Charlotte at the race shop, he ripped the gravel stickers right off the side, and I got him a brand new seat from Butler Bill, and he's going to have a big game 2 car at Huset's. And with how our schedule is, and some of our months of the season, we're around the shop a lot, so he'll
That'll
probably
be
be able
nice.
to race 7 or 8 times at Huset's this year. And obviously, the shop being on Huset's property and then having a car ready to go, it'll be a lot easier for him to do it. So
Just
watch
gotta push
out.
it down the hill.
Yeah. You just got to push him down the hill with the mule, start her up,
Yeah.
and go out for hot laps. So, yeah, we're excited. So I think he's have a really good car. Got to take some of the tie stuff off. But he's just looking for an engine. And, yeah, we'll be good to go for Zach. So he's pumped. Everybody's pumped. Got to thank Todd and the whole Queering family for doing that for Zach. And, you got to give incentive to these guys to stick around because in this sport, man, these crew guys, they're bouncing around a lot. So
Yeah, I was gonna say that's pretty good incentive to be your tire guy.
yeah,
No kidding.
no doubt. When you got good guys that support you and dedicate their life to you, I feel like doing those things go a long way. And it's a struggle, man. We're missing a car chief right now and looking for one. So it's just every year we've never entered the season with the same exact team. We've always had to replace one guy, and it's very, very tough. I've seen 7S's social media post looking for a crew guy, and let's see, who else was it looking for 2 crew guys? The 18 team, KCP, looking for 2 crew guys. So it's pretty wild, thing we got to deal with nowadays.
Yeah, it's tough. I'm very fortunate this year. This will be the first year we've had all 3 of our same guys come back. The last couple of years we keep 2 of the same. We get a new tire guy and things like that. So this coming year we get I've got all my same guys, same crew chief, same tire guys, same car chief, same everything. So it ought to be nice for a change to just kind of have that gel together as a team, and everybody knows their job, and pulls the rope the same direction, and makes it a lot easier.
You got anything to say, Chris?
Chris has had a different guy every year, I think.
Are you guys going to try to run the season with 2 guys, like Jason and 1 other, or Jason and 2 others? Like, what's kind
I
of
think
your
they're
guys'
trying
goal?
to have 3 full-time guys this year. That's their plan from my understanding. So looking for obviously another guy right now, and I haven't even got to go meet all those guys yet. I obviously know them all, but I've just seen them at the racetrack and never really talked to them very much. So got to go down there and meet them sometime here in the next month and spend a day or 2 in the shop.
So is this going to be the first time the Sides Motorsports 7S is not going to have red on it? Like, are we going to be full-blown NAS? Or
that's what I said the last time we talked. I said, how weird is it going to be for you to not have a red and white car? And he just laughed.
He's had blue sometimes, so obviously you guys have to go the blue route, and the 7S has been blue before.
Yeah, I've generally been more of the blue guy in the NOS camp anyway. Tyler gets more of the orange, and then Sheldon's obviously got the more fluorescent orange and black, but we kind of try to stick to I'm more blue. I feel like Tyler's more orange, and Sheldon's got his colors.
Yeah, for sure. So everybody asks what's tougher, this past year, high limit, World of Outlaws, right? You guys kind of went and dabbled and run outlaw races, and we've raced together, and you guys go and do your thing. What's your perspective and what's your honest opinion on what you think is tougher, and just your flat out opinion on it all?
I mean, for us, we had better results with the Outlaws, and I'm not saying necessarily that it was any easier, just maybe circumstances and tracks and the races that we ran, we had better results. My honest opinion, just on competition, I feel that the Outlaws, top 6, 7 guys are still top 6, 7 fastest guys in the country. I think the top 6 or 7 in high limit rival that, but I felt like in high limit all the way back through, really 15th to 20th on any given night was sometimes just as hard to run with those guys than what was to run the top 10. A lot of nights I was battling Zeb and Spencer Baston and whoever else it may be for 14th or 15th, and just looking at results and running some outlaw races, it seemed like it was not as deep a lot of the nights at an outlaw show as what it was at a high limit show.
Yeah, I think it's still just as hard to win in either series, but I think I'd agree with Chris. I think like you get past 10th in the high limit thing, and it's still extremely hard to run back there versus what I felt like when I watched or ran some of the outlaw shows. I felt like getting to 10th at the outlaw shows wasn't as hard as coming from 16th to try to get to 10th in the high limit shows. I felt like we were a little bit deeper talent wise, but I felt like like Chris said, the top 6 or 7 on both series are still like those guys are going to go win in either series if they go run.
Yeah, I think I agree. I felt like, and I think a majority of sprint car racing agrees. You get some general population fans that say, "Oh, this series is way better than another," but I think everybody knows winning in either series is hard, and the top 5 World of Outlaw, guys in 6 and 7 there, like just run top 5 is hard. And obviously if it's hard to run in the top 10 with high limit, then it's hard to run top 5 as well. And I think there's a little bit of levels to it. I think, Sunshine, you're right there on like tier 1, tier 2, right? Like I feel like there's only a couple guys there, and Macedo being one and Brad being another, and then like myself, maybe tier 1, and you're like, feel like tier 1.5, like you're right on the cusp. And Rico too, like he lacked a little bit of consistency, but he could go out any night and win any race anywhere, right? So I feel like it just takes a little bit of time to learn how to be good every single night. If your car's not that good, or if you're running in the back, what that night is going to bring. Maybe it's 15th that night, but making sure you maximize every night. And I feel like you can't teach that until you've been there, done that, and you're like, man, that was stupid, or man, I could have did better that night. And it's just trials and tribulations. I've done this since 2013, so I've been doing it for a long time, and even before that, getting my butt whipped by Tim Schaefer and Dale Blaney on the All-Star Tour, not winning any races, right? Like I was getting my butt kicked all the time. So it's just, I feel like it's hard no matter where you go, and I think this next year it's going to be a lot more equal as far as top to bottom. I think high limit are losing a good chunk of guys, probably 4 or 5. Not say the top 3 guys, but definitely some talented people out there. And now the Outlaws, to my understanding, are going to gain a couple cars as well. So I think truly next year it's going to be as even as probably you can make it top to bottom.
I would agree. I think, from at least what you hear, what we know so far, guys going one way or the other. I feel like the series will be, a lot more, evenly diverse. I feel like, and but it'd be interesting to see, and be interesting to see how, like Chris does, going the outlaw direction versus how last year went, and things like that, just to see. And then but yeah, I don't know. I'm excited that there's 2 series that give a platform for teams to be able to choose to go one way or the other, and but really having yourself to go one way or the other, being great options both ends to be able to go run for a lot of money, and be supported as well from great series.
Chris, come on, you gotta give me something here.
Yeah, I mean, I'm obviously excited to go on the Outlaw Tour. I think that's what since I started, dirt racing and non-wing racing, the World of Outlaws is the pinnacle of dirt racing. Always has been, and now we're talking about competition level off 2 series that are going now, and that's definitely the case. But at the end of the day, the World of Outlaws are still the World of Outlaws, and are going to be for the foreseeable future. So I'm excited for it. I think obviously switching 3 different teams in 3 years isn't what anybody sets out to do when they start their wing journey. But circumstances have come to that, and just haven't got settled in somewhere yet. So that's really what I'm excited about, is hopefully settling into something and trying to work with somebody, and making relationships to further my career, and try to obviously go out and win races and be competitive on a weekly basis.
Well, don't feel like you're the only guy. We're not exactly lucky. Like Sunshine's been at the same team for like 12 years, and Brad Sweet's been at the same team for like 20. But I got tossed around like a working girl for a while. So
yeah, I know you went through a lot of this too. I remember that, back you were running Bill's car and jumping all around there for a while. So
yeah, ran Tyner's car, ran Roth's car, Destiny 7, CJB 41, and then now the 2. So, there was a time there where the longest I've been at a team was 3 years, and now this is Big Game Motorsports is the place I've been the longest. So it just takes time, the right situation, and really, like, Tyler took a huge risk going wing sprint car racing with Jake with no really wing experience. And yeah, you had the money and the backing and the equipment to do it, but you guys could have came out and been terrible, right? And
Yeah.
obviously Jake's a talented crew chief and very smart guy, and I feel like you guys put a lot of effort into your guys' program, and it takes, right. We're all talented drivers, and there's talented crew guys and crew chiefs, and a lot of car owners, not a lot, but there's car owners that do spend the money, but it doesn't mean you're going to have success.
Yeah, and yeah, we took a risk as a team as a whole, but we all jumped in together and knew it was probably gonna be a little bit of a struggle, and luckily that first year went way better than we thought it was going to, and and yeah, Jake's probably one of the best guys I've ever worked with, and one of the smartest guys I know, and he works hard every day, even I'm sure he's on vacation right now, but I know he's probably still thinking of stuff he's gonna do when he gets back, and it's just been cool to one, be at the same place for as long as I have, and two, now have a crew chief that we bond really well and work really well together, and have a guy that has worked just as hard as I have to get to this point, and now we got two younger guys that have kind of bought into our situation, and our beliefs, and what we got going on at CMR, and yeah, and then at the same time we've got a great sponsor too that believes in us, and took the risk with us to go from non-wing racing to wing racing, and fortunately for all of us involved, it's worked out, and we're just but we're gonna keep working hard to get better, and get to that next level that we want to be at, to where we're competing for the championship for the whole year, and not just for most of it.
I mean, I like your chances. I think this is the year, right? Like I feel like Donnie was so dominant for a while, then Brad was dominant, but I feel like Brad shows that he's vulnerable and he has a lot of changes in his team, and I think you guys are on the up, and not that Brad is down, but he's got a lot of stuff going on, and him racing is definitely important to him for sure. But he's kind of in a transition part of his life, so it's gonna be interesting to see. I think if Rico cleans a couple things up, I think he's another guy. Other than that, I don't really know who I think could consistently, bring it night in, night out. Like Brett Marks, maybe, but I don't even know if he's running the series. So it's going to be interesting to see.
Yeah, no, I'm excited, and yeah, I know this is probably probably one of our better chances to beat Brad. Just all the changes he has going on. Just specifically within his team, but he's still gonna be the guy to beat, and we know
No
that.
doubt. I agree. So, Chris, the Outlaw Tour, I think your wallet's going to be happier coming to the Outlaws, because I felt like High Limit is very top heavy. Like you win the championship, a lot of high paying races, but those 100,000 to win races really don't pay well throughout the field. And really, you got to win those big races or run in the top, three in the High Limit points. I feel like the World of Outlaws pays so good in the top 10 for the point structure. And then our average purses are always a little bit higher. I think on the paper and the math that we've all seen, I think if you have a dominant year, you can, win more money with High Limit. But I feel like on average, if you look at a 5-year or 10-year performance, I think the Outlaws, you'll make more money. But there's upsides on both sides, but I think us having less t-shirt trailers, and then I feel like our attendance on average is better. I feel like High Limit's still building their brand, and there was some bad nights and some great nights, but I feel like the Outlaws know, right? They've been doing it so long, what tracks they're going to go and make money, and where they're going to have a good crowd. And I feel like for us, there was less risk of going somewhere and only 800 people or 1,200 people showing up. So I think the checking account will look better after this coming year.
Yeah, it's kind of off the math I've ran and talking to other people, and talking to Anthony Carini, who's done both series. Kind of said the same thing. Obviously, you win in High Limit, it's very good money, but everybody's not winning every week. So I think throughout looking at the points fund for the Outlaws and seeing that, definitely is opportunity to cash in a little better at the end of the season if you're not in the top three of a point series.
And it's not to throw shade at High Limit, right? Look at how far they've come in 2 years. They were a midweek series, and then now a national series this year, and what they've been able to offer. And obviously not possible without, Flow putting in all that money. So I feel like it's been such a good thing for, keeping the World of Outlaws honest. And, I think, like I told you, it being really top heavy. That's why you're seeing all these people dropping off the high limit series, because running 15th with the high limit deal, the math just doesn't add up, right? I think that's how it has always been structured with the Outlaws. You never really seen a season with 20 teams, because it doesn't make sense to run 18th, 19th in points. Like, financially, you're better off, staying closer to home, winning more regional races.
Yeah, I definitely think I agree with all of that for sure.
So the All Stars coming back this year, guys. You have this deal with the Power I deal going against each other. Are you guys happy to see kind of a regional deal back? Like, you look at guys like Emerson Axum last year, ran good nationally, but felt like he wasn't ready for a national tour. But all those in between races, like, what do you go do? Do you just go race local Attica or local Knoxville? I feel like it's going to be interesting to see how those two series battle out, but way more options for people not to feel like they're forced to run a national series.
Yeah, I think that's going to be good for the national series in the long run. I think it's going to give those guys a platform to grow themselves and their teams into teams that are ready to go on the national tour. I think we were pretty fortunate enough to have the All Stars for 3 years to build our program up and build myself up as a driver into someone that was especially coming from something different into wing cars and still learning, and having that platform of the All Stars to learn and grow was crucial. I feel like for us to have the success we've had now on the national tour. And yeah, I feel like especially a guy like Emerson, who's going to run probably a lot of national races. If he doesn't do a national tour, he's going to have these two series now that he can go run on those weekends that he doesn't run with, high limit or the Outlaws to go, still race against better competition than, so to say, just go and run a local show somewhere.
Yeah, I think piggyback off what he said a little bit, it definitely helps. Well, for one, I feel like it'll help, a team like Lane Racing that I ran for 2 years ago, not quite able to maybe go out and be full time on high limit or World of Outlaws, but definitely could go run an all-star series like they did for many years, or Power I series or whatever it may be. But on top of helping, the Ohio, Pennsylvania teams, I think it helps newer drivers or newer teams, like you said, that 16, 17-year-old kid that has the backing or is ready to go full-time wing racing might not be smart to jump in and go World of Outlaw racing and get your confidence kicked in every week, and you can go do that for a year or two, and it's a stepping stone. Obviously, you're not going to run. I mean, some guys did, but your plan probably isn't to run with the All Stars for 20 plus years. So it's something that can be brought back in as sort of a stepping stone, I guess.
So we're getting towards kind of the end of this, and we have a paid question. So if anybody has any questions they want to ask, send them in now. But this one's for you, Chris. Terry Walsh says, Chris, share any Freddie Kraft stories from Vegas.
Oh, man. Trying to think of the funniest one. I don't know if Freddie did anything
you guys
too
don't
crazy.
Gamble, do you?
Yeah, no, never.
Never gambled ever in my life.
I think that maybe the funniest one is just sitting. So Anthony Carini was out there with us too, and Tyler knows he got us all hooked on a game called Pai Gow Poker, which is basically a game you go play when you're getting your ass kicked at everything else, because you can sit there and get free drinks, and the concept of it is you don't really ever lose. You push all the time. So we talked Freddie into sitting down and playing that with us. Well, we were pushing and winning, and I think Freddie lost every hand for like 10 hands in a row. And oh yeah, this game's really fun, he said.
That's never fun when you're playing blackjack and you lose, 8 hands in a row. The guy next to you wins 7 in a row or 8 in a row.
Vegas kicked my ass on blackjack. I think it made me retire for at least a year on that.
When we were in the Bahamas, I witnessed Kyle lost, I think, 5 hands in a row to blackjack the dealer had in a row. And, he's not betting lightly.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, those are the frustrating nights.
Yeah, they're not all like that. I know Tivoli Sunshine, you at least 1 or 2 of the nights at Chili Bowl, you're typically a winner.
Yeah. Tulsa's treated me pretty well on the casino side of things, but Usually the ones in Indiana, when me and Chris go, they kick our ass.
Yeah.
Yeah, for whatever reason, I feel like I used to be able to grind out blackjack and always at least get my money back. In the last couple of years, everywhere we go, it's just I've
Yeah.
sucked.
Yeah,
I
we've
don't
had
know
better
what.
luck on slots than we have blackjack.
So I know you guys got addicted to slots there at one point, and we're watching all the guys on Facebook, and I did too. I'm like Mr. Handpay and D
Yeah.
Lucky, and all these
Vegas
guys.
Matt.
So I'm going to Hollywood here in Florida to the Hard Rock Casino, that big guitar hotel looking place.
Yeah.
And I think it was Jill's birthday last year, and like, all right, I'm bringing X amount, and I'm giving her X amount to spend. I'm gonna hit it hard. Huff and Puff is my machine. I'm gonna kill it on there. And I lost. Jill won, right? So I'm like, all right, it is what it is. At least Jill won. She's happy. And then I bring JR Todd the next time down. He doesn't even seem like he likes to gamble. Like, hey, JR, try Huff and Puff. I'm
He
on Huff
won,
and
didn't he?
Puff, losing my ass. And I'm betting, like 750 a spin. He's betting, 350 a spin. And he fills the whole board with one of those pig guys, and he gets a hand pay on like a 350 bet, and I'm leaving down, $1,500. So it's like anybody I ever brought, I lost there, and I never won.
That's funny.
Maybe you just got to go by yourself.
I'm gonna try that. I still get the stuff in the mail every week, and I've been watching. There's Huff and even more Puff, and then there's another one
like
on
versions now.
Yeah, 4 versions.
JR sent me a picture that night when you guys were there and said, "You ever played this Huff and Puff?" And she just thinks awesome. I said, "Oh yeah." Grapple showed him the machine, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I didn't know he was betting that little and won that big. That's funny."
Yeah, he did good. It worked out for him. So I'm gonna go at least once before the season starts back up and try it out. But for some reason now these slot machines are popping back up on my feed, and then I start
Just
watching
telling you to
them.
go.
They just keep sending. It must be an off-season thing. They know I'm on Facebook a lot more now, and it's working. I'll tell you that.
Heck yeah.
All right, the last thing I want to talk about, Chris, obviously Indianapolis is important to Sunshine and you, but you were able to race in the Indy Lights race, I believe, twice at Indianapolis, right?
Yeah, I ran the race only one time and made it one lap when we got crashed out. Well, I guess it was a lap and a half we made. So yeah.
If I could remember right, wasn't that probably like the worst 2 days of your life? Didn't you absolutely flip your ass off in a Silver Crown car too?
Yeah, I blew a right rear actually leading the Hoosier 100 the night before and all the way down the front stretch. Luckily, nobody hit me because that would have probably been even worse, but still was not good either way. I didn't feel good. And IndyCar, I was supposed to run the Indy Lights race the next morning, and IndyCar messaged me that night and said, "You got to be at medical at 7:30 in the morning to get cleared for the Indy Lights race." And I woke up the next morning and just broken blood vessels all through my face, and
Oh, geez.
I actually had Georgia put makeup all over my cheeks to try to help me pass medical. And luckily, I mean, I passed the concussion protocol and everything. And looking back, I almost wish I wouldn't have, because we went out and David Malukas spun out in front of us the first lap of the race and pounded the fence down there, going almost 200 miles an hour, and went to IRP that night, blew an engine, dumped oil all over the rear tires, and went head on into turn 1 there.
Trish's
Man,
hell
what a
week.
weekend. Gonna be the
Yeah.
best weekend of your life, and that shit happens. That's tough, man. That's tough. Somebody asked, Gravel, you going to cover for Macedo down under? I'll touch on that real quick, but obviously he had a pretty bad knee injury. I'm not going to specify what happened because it's not my business, but hopefully he heals fast. I know leg and knee injuries, you can't move it for a while, and then being stuck in another country is definitely a situation none of us ever want to be in. So I hope he heals up good. I know he'll be working as hard as he can to get back in the race car, and I'm sure by bike week at Volusia he'll be probably really, really good. That's it, you guys. You guys don't care for him at all. That's it.
I feel bad for him. It sucks, but
He was
I
injured
think
on-
I guess if you're gonna look at the positives, obviously he races for a living. I'm sure he makes some money down in Australia, but for his main job here in the States, if you're gonna look at the positives, at least it happened as early as it did in the off season for him to be able to heal and probably be ready to go for Volusia.
As I get older, man, less is more for me. I'm getting old. Look at my beard. I got a couple grays. It's like when the Outlaws say 93 races on the schedule, like I'm good. I'm
That's
good.
plenty.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm a little bit jealous. It's like I run Chili Bowl. None of the big superstars run, and then now Bell's back and Larson's back. Kind of like your group and them two are not Bell, but Larson were kind of like the people I'd hang out with, and it's like. You start staying at different hotels and less people come. It's like, man, I'm old now. Like, there's all these young kids at the Chili Bowl
Yep.
now, but I think the Chili Bowl is going to be
Is
watched.
this your off season from Chili Bowl? Like you go like every other year?
Yeah. Every other year, pretty much. I bounced around. Could have raced for Abacus again, but Jill's 30th birthday was this off season, and Levi's a lot, and Jill's injecting Botox and lip filler and making people look good every day. So I gotta support her because she's gonna be my sugar mama here when I turn 40.
Yeah, I think I realize I'm old when I used to look forward. Not that I don't still look forward to racing Chili Bowl, but going the entire week and partying, picking David up at the airport, getting ready to go straight out. Now I just want to get there on my prelim night and race and go back home. So I think I realized I'm at the point now where it's not that fun to go out there and party as what it used to be.
Well, I just
not every
don't
night at least.
Not every night at least.
Our immune systems can't take it anymore. Being in that building and going to bed at 4 a.m. and going to Waffle House or going to the diner at Hard Rock. It's hard to do.
For sure.
All right, guys. Well, I appreciate it. Hour and 12 minutes. I don't want to take up too much more of your time. I appreciate it. Sunshine, you racing Volusia or no Volusia?
Yeah, I believe we'll be at Volusia the first week. We won't go to Bike Week. We'll run the first week probably, and then come home and get stuff freshened back up and head to Vegas.
All right, Chris. We'll see you at Volusia as well. If you guys are planning any fishing trips before your kid pops out, Chris, but let me know if you're doing any fishing down here in Florida, or if you got to do a little binge gambling. Let me know. I'll be here.
I will definitely do that.
All right, guys. Thank you very much. Sunshine, Tyler Courtney, and Chris Windom. Thank you, guys. All right, I thought that was a good show. I felt like we talked about a lot of good things, covered a lot of the bases in our sport today. Perfect, right? Two guys that ran high limit last year. Now one's going outlaw and one's staying with high limit. Both USAC guys coming from the USAC ranks. So felt like gave a lot of good perspective on everything. So I thought it was a great show. We got to thank Marlowe's Metal Fabricating, Dover, Pennsylvania. If you need any metal work done in Pennsylvania, Central PA, check out Donnie Marlowe over there. And AZ Roofing, our newest sponsor of the show in Bristol, Connecticut. Tim and his whole family and everybody there at AZ, thank you for all you do. We'll continue to promote these guys' companies. If you want to sponsor the show, please let me know. Check out shopdgr.com. And we'll see you guys Monday. We'll announce the guests very soon and try to promote it well, but it will be a big name. Thank you guys, and we'll see you then. Peace out.
Dude, I did it so bad.
We don't want to look like to your crew chief here.
Yeah, we don't want to look like we're soft.
Is it you or the car?
Oh, yeah.